The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pac wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
School's back in session here at NC State, and the 2018-19 wrestling season is rapidly approaching. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. I'm your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt, and steering the ship right next to me is the principal of the Wolfpack, Pat Popolizio.
Brian, how are you?
Pat, it's good to track you down. Busy time of year, but the summer months here in the athletics department have come to an end. School is starting up this week. Football season's right around the corner, and even more importantly for you guys, preseason training will get underway. So just exciting times for the wrestling team.
You sure it's still not summertime? It feels like it outside.
By my hours worked and paycheck going down, I would say no longer summer.
All right. I guess you might be right.
But before we get into some great new content, I wanted to take a second and revisit our previous episode real quick. Last episode of the podcast, we celebrated our 25th episode and left it up to the fans to ask the Skip. Lots of good questions. I got a lot of great feedback from our fans. They wanted another edition, but for you as a head coach, how much fun was it to see how much interest there is about the program, how it works, and just for you to let fans know some of the behind-the-scenes going-ons?
Yeah, that was a good episode. Always great to know people care and are curious about what's going on. So appreciate people reaching out and showing interest in that. And hopefully we keep getting creative on that and moving forward. Get maybe some of the guys on there too. You know, we gotta keep utilizing the resources we have here, Brian.
I was kind of surprised none of the guys submitted a question. You must have put a little bit of fear into it.
No, you'd be surprised. They probably made a fake account.
But that was certainly a fun episode. It was great for me. I didn't have to do too much work. It was my summer break. So please go back into the archives and give it a listen. And to all of our fans, please go in and subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to all of your favorite podcasts. That way you will get all of the episodes automatically downloaded as soon as we release them. You can find us everywhere. Just search Pac Mentality. And also you can listen to all previous episodes on YouTube. Just search Pac Wrestle over on YouTube. And I know I keep begging, but go over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. It has been so long since somebody has left one. I'm wondering what's going on here. But Pat, right after we taped that 25th episode, you jetted down to the NWCA Coaches Convention in Florida. And why you guys go down there and put the NCAA championships up in cold northern cities, I don't understand. But back to the convention, what were your takeaways from it? What were some of the hot topics that were discussed?
Yeah, it's always good to sharpen up, get together, brainstorm with the best in Division 1, 2, 3, and even some high school NAIA. I mean, everybody was there, so it was a good weekend to recap some hot topics. I think, always in our sport, things are evolving and changing. There's a lot of NCAA rules that are, part of it that are moving components. I think right now, one of the biggest ones is the red shirt. What football just recently did. Is that something that's going to fall into play for college wrestling? The changing of the seasons possibly is a topic that keeps getting brought up. And, it's always good to stay out in front of topics that are important. And that's kind of what we did, covered them a little bit in depth, brainstormed, and continue to work together to do what's right for college wrestling and make it the best situation for these student athletes and just all together make our sport continue to grow. And I think that's a big part of that weekend, is to find ways to continue to grow college wrestling at all levels, even high school. So that's what our job is, and we got to continue to work together and make that happen.
You also came back with the new job title, El Presidente, but you're now the president-elect of the Wrestling Coaches Association. So congratulations. What does that mean, and what responsibilities are there with it?
Thank you. Yeah, it's something to take a lot of pride in. Growing up, wrestling, means a lot to me, obviously, and it's something, passionate about. So to be involved in that and work alongside with the NWCA, I think it's going to be extremely valuable. I've learned a lot over the last year or two working with them, and looking forward to implementing ideas and, just brainstorming together with them. But yeah, it's, I think it's a position where, you're part of college wrestling. You're a point person for maybe colleagues and different people. I'm still learning what it's 100% about, but I think it's one of those where, I'm on the phone quite a bit with the NWCA, and we have our conference calls every month, in-person meetings, and then you're just a resource for people as well, and they're a resource for us. So we're all working together to continue to grow, but it's a position that I take a lot of pride in, and hopefully continue to put wrestling in the mainstream path.
Campaign speeches, fundraising, shaking hands, kissing babies. What was some of the fun parts of that presidential run? I didn't see it on Twitter. I didn't see anything publicized about it.
It's one of those. I think you just do your time, and you look back at, coaches that have been in the game for a while. I think that's a role that a lot of people have played, whether it's with the NWCA or they're on NCAA committees. That's an important part of the professional development, and everybody's got to do their time at the right point in their career. I think it's valuable to do, and it just worked out. It's good timing on our part.
And now we are here in late August. Your favorite weekend just took place, Movein Day. How many boxes did you personally move in for our guys?
So the luxury of that is our move-in date actually happens in July, or June, should I say, when all the freshmen come down here. So we skipped all the lines for the most part. We give them that summer to help them. Our returners come out, they help. Our coaches are there. We all take part in that. So actually this weekend wasn't that bad. These guys were already moved down here. They just kind of had to probably move from room to room. So it made an easy transition for them. And I know some family members came down and other team members helped them a little bit, but our guys were here for the most part already.
You never answered the question. I said, how much did you move?
Well, we were all involved. I was more going through shelves and boxes to make sure the guys had the right kind of food in play, and nutrition was in place, and their books and all their books were taken care of.
We could see you at the Container Store. That seems like something.
Yeah, being organized.
So you mentioned all of the newcomers were here for summer too. That was sort of a test run with some of the classes and a brief introduction to campus in Raleigh, but now that the fall semester is here with so many newcomers, how is the wrestling team assigned to dorms for their freshman year?
So we basically handpick where we want to put our guys. We find what's going to be the best situation for their schedules as far as breaks and whatnot. Since we're here a lot over the breaks, we need to find a dorm that's open over Thanksgiving, fall break, winter break, any other break that falls into place in our season. So these guys aren't distracted moving out, packing a bag. And so, where they're at right now, they're grouped together. So everybody's on the same schedule as far as practice goes. Class schedules are going to be a little different. But at the end of the day, these guys got a chance to meet some people this summer. They'll continue to meet some people. But in the day-to-day schedule, it's good that these guys are rooming together so no one has an excuse to ever be late or miss anything. And that's how these guys can hold each other accountable.
What about how are roommates assigned?
We do a pretty good job in analyzing personalities, and then after summer school, these guys kind of come together and they kind of pick who they want to be in their. I think they're group 4 together, and they pick it out a little bit themselves, and we just give it the stamp of approval.
And this is an academic institution, and some of the guys, I'm talking about newcomers here, they've picked majors. Others are going through exploratory studies while they figure out what they want to do, but as for this big freshman class and all of your freshmen, how many hours do you like to try to schedule for this first semester? And what kind of academic support do they have right from the start? So, it was good. These guys got their feet wet with summer school, and across the board, our grades were phenomenal. A lot of A's, a few B's. So overall, the guys did a great job coming in and getting that first class underneath them. But typically we'll go anywhere, depending on the kid's demand on what major he's in. We can go, typically we go about 15 credits. Some guys will go as high as 18, which is a little bit of a stretch during the season.
it can get challenging on them. But guys that are in good academic standing can push themselves a little bit there. And some guys, if they're being here in the summertime and knowing their schedule, they don't, the demands can be loosened up a little bit during the year because they're taking summer school. So some guys can even drop to 12 if they need to, and still graduate in 4 years. Some guys are pushing it to graduate in 3, get their masters. Everybody's on a different plan academically, depending on what their goals are, but we're here to support them, help them, guide them. And then the academic support, we do a phenomenal job here at NC State making sure these guys get all their needs met and stay the course to make sure they're not only eligible, because that to me is, that's a given. We're here to make sure these guys are pushing themselves and challenging themselves to at least get higher than a 3.0 and making Dean's List and all ACC and honor roll here at NC State.
And for your returnees, how do they figure out their living situations? Do you put any kind of restrictions on where they can live?
No, I've learned to let those guys pick who their roommates are. We're involved in just knowing, as long as there are guys that are on the team, it's a good living situation. But these guys all live off campus. They get houses, apartments. It works pretty well for them. And by the time, a year passes, they know who's going to be the best roommate for them. And it's been working pretty well. I try to give them some advice here and there. The guys that are willing to listen, I think, figure it out. Less is better. The more people in a house, the more problems they're going to have. But I think as they get a little more experience, they figure that out. But, Raleigh being such a great area with real estate, a lot of families have bought some townhouses and, used it a little bit for investments. And also, I think it's a smart move because by the time these guys are graduating, they can have that house to continue to live in there or sell it, whatever they want to do. But a lot of families have been doing that, and it's been working well for these guys.
And lots of meetings this first week for all of your guys between compliance, academics, orientation, and just your own team meetings. When will preseason get underway, and what does that look like?
So we give these guys a week to get organized, kind of get their feet on the ground running. Next week, we'll start up with the freshmen, give them a week to understand what our workouts are going to be like, what the schedule is going to be like, and then right after Labor Day, we'll throw in the rest of the returners, and we'll be full speed ahead from now until the NCAA tournament.
And this episode of the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast once again features 2 interviews. The vastly popular Hidden Heroes segment is back, and thanks to a very generous donation we received earlier this summer. So stay tuned to meet our PA announcer for Home Duels, Chris Hooks. And Pat, that actually leads me into something else. We talked about it last time. You guys, and a fan called you out on Twitter for saying first annual, so I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
right.
But you guys are going to host your first golf tournament.
And it will be an annual event.
It will be an
put
annual.
A comma in there.
Yeah. But how's that going? How's it forming? I saw a lot of great guys, a lot of great alums are coming back, and it's got to be really exciting.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate enough to have a committee of our alumni that are passionate and putting a lot of time and energy into this golf outing, and that's what I love about these guys is you give them a task to do. They're relentless on it and very organized, and they know it's a huge part of what we need right now to make that jump to be one of the best teams in the country year in and year out. So having their support now is extremely valuable. But it's been good. We got 5 former national champs that'll be at this event and a bunch of alumni that were all Americans and just competed here at NC State and put a lot of time into building this program up. So to have them all come back for this weekend is going to be nice to have. And for them to make the connection with the current guys. I mean, that's what it takes to build this program to be, one of the best in the country. And we need that right now. So it's a good time to do it. It's going to be a great event. Typically, a lot of times events are done during the year when we're competing, but this is going to be rather laid back, a lot of time to hang out with these guys and get to know them.
And that golf outing is going to be September 7th. It's a Friday before the Georgia State football games. You guys still accepting people to register, come out and play, and sponsor holes? And
I think that's key right there. You don't need to be somebody that wrestled here at NC State. You can just be somebody that likes golf and wants to come and support. We're about 10 people short of our goal that we set out to do, and I'm confident we're going to beat the bushes and get those 10 extra people, but maybe if we can pick up one or two more right now, that would be very valuable to this.
So listeners of this podcast, if you want to golf with the pack, Pat, do you golf, by the way?
I do not. I think I could throw the golf ball further than I can hit it. What about you, Brian?
You can ride around in the golf cart with
I can
Pat.
do that very well.
Go visit the Wolfpack RTC website. We'd love to have you come out and just enjoy that. But, Pat, our feature interviewed in this segment, I caught up with a very recent grad in Nicky Hall as he prepares for life after NC State as he'll be entering the Marines. He worked a little more behind the scenes with the team this season, so I got to know him well, and he told me all about his story and experiences. But, Pat, you talk about pack mentality both on and off the mat. You have to be proud of how Nicky has taken that mindset, is about to embark on the next phase of his life.
Absolutely. Nicky Hall came here already as a true leader and just a very disciplined, hardworking, all the attributes you want as a student athlete to be successful to that next level in their career. And it's a perfect fit for him. When he talked about wanting to go this path, it was a no-brainer to me that it would be a really good thing for him, and he would be a positive impact on anybody that he's going to interact with and lead. And I'm happy for him and excited to see, where he plays out to be in the future as far as his role as being a leader.
In our continued Hidden Heroes of the Wolfpack Wrestling Program series, we're joined by another behind-the-scenes contributor to the program. Although this guest is probably a little more recognizable than most if you come to Reynolds for a duel. Today, I'm joined by our PA announcer, Chris Hooks. Chris, thanks for joining the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast and taking part in our Hidden Heroes segment.
Brian, I appreciate it. Look forward to chatting it up with you, buddy.
And you actually came from my side of the tracks, although you have a lot more broadcasting experience than I do. But after stops at App State and ECU, you joined the North Carolina Central Athletic Department in their sports information office in 2008. What made you want to get into sports and join college athletics?
Well, I grew up in a little town not far from here, Mebane, North Carolina, and I grew up a huge state fan. My whole family went to state. I'm the only one in my family that didn't go to state, although I did go for a semester in grad school. And but I went to App, and I grew up around sports, played sports, and I guess the being a part of it, being a part of that whole thing. And, when I went to App and got to work in the athletic department all 4 years, I was doing things that full-time people were doing. And I got to know the student athletes, some of which I still kind of talk to today. And I just like the family aspect of college athletics. And that's what kind of drew me to it. And, I went back to college athletics in 2008 to go work at North Carolina Central because they were moving to Division I. And I was, wanting to get back in because I had just been with the Hurricanes the previous 2 years, and it was too much of a grind, and it was a grind that I didn't like so much. And so getting back college athletics was kind of a goal of mine. And, that's kind of where it kind of started back.
And you've since left the SID world. As I tell Pat on here all the time, I work so many hours, so I could just understand how many hours you worked. But what are you up to now?
Well, I currently am an account executive for Curtis Media Group. I sell for News Radio 680 WPTF and another station called Just Right Radio 104.7, along with what is our Triangle Traffic Network, which is all 8 of the Curtis Media stations that pretty much we sell traffic adjacency commercials to our live traffic reports. So that's kind of what I do now. And, you asked, I guess why I left. Or my son was born in 2014. I went on a road trip, and this will give you, some folks some inside information as far as how college athletics work. So it was in maybe around Thanksgiving. On a Saturday, we played North Carolina A&T football, 2:00 kickoff. Did that game, broadcasted it, did whatever I had to do to get ready for it, while also getting ready for 3 other games. I had to catch a flight 5:00 to Omaha, got there at like 11:30. We played the next day against Creighton, and then we left the next morning at 4 a.m. to go play Cincinnati. And then we went to a tournament down in Florida, and my son was just born in that September, and I was just absolutely miserable the whole time. And at that point, I realized that I just want to go be a dad right now, because I was, you know it, working as many hours as you work. And, yeah, you get to go work games and everything, but there's so much else that you have to do. And it's fun, but I wanted to be a dad and kind of reset things.
And as mentioned to start here, with the NC State wrestling team, you serve as our PA announcer at all of the home duels. How long have you been doing the PA for Wolfpack Wrestling, and how did that opportunity come about?
Well, it was kind of interesting. I got to know Jim Sherrill after college and through the years, and who recently retired. He got me involved with the ACC Network Extra broadcasts, and I think I kind of, at one point, I just filled in as PA for wrestling, because I know the person that was doing it just couldn't do it for some reason. And then it just kind of evolved to where, hey, why don't you do it the rest of the year? And you know what? I certainly jumped at the opportunity. And I have a blast doing it. And, that's kind of how it happened. It just kind of I went to gym a couple years ago, just looking to get back into it, because I kind of still had that itch. And so I got to broadcast some games, and then, just to keep doing whatever in that field, to keep, I guess, talking for a living, because I guess the man upstairs blessed me with the gift of gab. That just kind of fell in my lap, and I just did it.
And for Wolfpack Wrestling, what's kind of your favorite part of doing the PA? I'm not sure. Do you get to enjoy duels, or are you so busy announcing? How is the experience?
A little quick backstory. I went to Appalachian, worked in athletics. So again, wrestling at Appalachian is big. Mm-hmm. It's huge. And I can remember the PA announcer. His name was Dr. Alan Utter. And he used to make little Mike Lang of the Pittsburgh Penguins references.
I'm from Pittsburgh, so I understand.
Oh, he would do things like, possible 2-point takedown, scratch my back with a hacksaw type things. And I enjoyed that. I was like, man, he really does a good job. As far as me enjoying, I have a blast at the duels. My favorite part is doing when the lights go off in the starting lineup. That's my favorite part, because then I get to just kind of scream it up a little bit, and just the crew here at NC State, Josh Monk and all his folks, Matt Curry and all those folks, Rachel and Quan do a tremendous job of setting the scene, lights off, and the intro video and smoke, and the marketing does a great job as well. So that's my favorite part. Obviously in the matches when something big happens, that's fun also. So I just enjoy. Yes, I do get to enjoy them, and I have a lot of fun watching them.
Now, I know NC State, very blessed to have a great SID here that constantly provides you with all up-to-date info. I'm talking about myself. But how much prep work goes into this for you?
PA is a little bit of an easier road as far as broadcasting. Let me side note this for a second, Brian. I've been fortunate enough to know you for quite a while, and I agree.
We do go way back.
Wholeheartedly. You are one of the quality SIDs in this business, and you are always fun to. It was always great to know. All right, good. I get to work with Brian this time, because it's always going to be a 100% well done.
And on this podcast, I only bring people on here that will speak about me.
Yes,
so.
No. As far as prep, I mostly just read your game notes. I mean, that's And then before the match, I go and find someone with the team to make sure that I say a name correctly, because that's the gist of it. If you can't say the name correctly, then what good are you? A lot of times when I get the script before the match, I'll go and, kind of have some quiet time real quick just to read over the script. So it's not like when I see them, it's the first time I've seen it. Sometimes they'll send it to me beforehand, and I'll practice it at the house or something. Just nothing. I don't put too much pressure on it, because if you do at that point, then you're just going to get too worked up. But a lot of times it's just asking you a bunch of questions, and then, kind of being in the moment whenever, you're good about getting us, hey, we're going to start at the 125 or whatever. So then it's just at that point, just asking, the other coaches who's wrestling, if there's two guys, and either or, and all that stuff. So, you pretty much do all the work for us, so you make it easy.
I will say, though, it drives me crazy. Do you wrestling, I don't understand it. You don't have to say who the starter is. They just roll on out there. It's created a little bit of chaos sometimes, just yelling down about the table who's out there. So you really have to be on the fly here sometimes.
Well, and it's good. Like you and the some of the females that help out. It's like you know, Melissa Simmons is also a big help. She'll be like, "That's so and so." You know, it's not like basketball or other sports where their names are on the back. You know, I don't know if wrestlers even ever done that. As far as I know, Coach Papalizio hasn't done it yet, putting names on the back, but maybe you should get him to do that.
Well, you just wait this year. We got 2 sets of twins. I'm still trying to figure them both out, so it's really going to be interesting. But one of your proudest moments in your career had to be when you were working as a producer for the Carolina Hurricanes when they won the Stanley Cup in 2006. What was your role like with the Canes then?
So pretty much I can just the easiest way to explain it is when you walk into the arena, anything that you saw on those screens, you know, the video boards or the TVs, we were in charge of. We did do TV commercials. We did do the commercials that played in the arena and during the TV broadcast. You know, we typically were the SIDs of the organization. And so, you know, if the team did a team bonding event one year, they went to Fort Bragg and did an entire day there. So we had to shoot video of that and send it out to the media. And then it was funny. The first year I got there around August, my first 2 weeks there or whatever, my boss was like, go out to Bond Park. They were doing something. And they did a ropes course as a team. And didn't think anything of it, you know, tried to get the best shots I could. I tried to go into that they kind of lifted me up a little bit into the ropes, not too high, but, you know, they start winning. We get requests from Canada. Every news outlet in Canada wanted footage of that. And then the NHL wanted footage of it. But that was kind of my role. In game, I did anything from running replay, running camera. Sometimes I would be the technical director, but a lot of times I ran the LED board. When it came playoff time, that was like my superstitious position. So that was my role. Any highlight video, any of that sort. That's kind of what I did with the organization. There was 3 other people that I worked with.
Chris, I want to thank you for joining us today on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. But more so, I want to thank you for your work with the NC State wrestling team and making home duels a great fan experience.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And again, they do the work. I mean, Coach Papalizio and his staff are amazing. And I feed off them. They're intense. And I'll tell you what, the moment I will never forget is when Boykin got the overtime victory against Virginia Tech to win the ACC dual championship. That was amazing.
Many fun times at Reynolds. We look forward to hearing your call and many more. This Hidden Heroes of the Wolfpack Wrestling Program segment was brought to you by a very generous donation by one of our listeners who wanted to remain anonymous. We're very appreciative for that individual's gift to this podcast. I know I ask a lot of our listeners sometimes with subscribing, leaving reviews, buying tickets, getting me a raise even. But this individual's donation came unsolicited and really made me and Pat feel like our fans are enjoying this content that we are producing and proud of this podcast. I'm very glad that we are able to do this Hidden Hero segment, and it was all made possible by one of our listeners. If you would like to donate anything to this podcast, please reach out to us on Twitter or email me directly. I love to correspond with our fans, and with our next donation, I look forward to seeing what ideas that individual will have, as I'll incorporate your gift into this podcast. You can reach both Pat and myself on Twitter at PackWrestle, and my email is bcreinha@ncsu.edu. Joining us now on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is another recently graduated member of the Wolfpack, Nicky Hall. Nicky, welcome to the podcast. I'll ask you the same question I've asked a couple of our other recent guests. Are you used to being called a former Wolfpack wrestler yet?
No, and a lot of times people will ask me, like, where do you wrestle or do you wrestle? And I still say I wrestle at NC State. So, kind of weird, and then I'll catch myself and say, well, I did wrestle at NC State. I just graduated. So the whole former part is taking a little.
How can they tell you're a wrestler?
Oh man, look at my face. It looks like a catcher's mitt. I mean, I got the ear, I got a busted lip. Nose been busted a couple times, so.
I guess this is a good thing. This is a podcast and not a video interview. But
yeah.
Getting back, we're going to kind of start at the beginning of your journey to NC State. You came from New York. So what were some of the factors in you deciding to come to NC State to go to college?
Well, I mean, probably like every other recruit and every other gal on the team. I mean, you go on your visits and stuff. And I just remember coming here, and it wasn't the campus. I mean, the campus is beautiful. I mean, they have all the bells and whistles that every big D1 school has, but it was the people. I mean, I hung out with the team, and I felt like I had friends instantly. I mean, I was texting them when I got back, and I'm sure, maybe, that was a part of the plan, but I like the guys. I liked hanging out with the guys. The coaches were awesome. We did similar stuff on every recruiting trip, but for some reason, when we did the same stuff here, it was just different. So honestly, it's just the people. You're surrounded by good dudes, and that's why. I mean, I remember my recruiting trip like it was yesterday. So,
who is your host?
It was actually Pete Renda, and I hope he doesn't hear this because we've joked about this the whole time. Because I saw Pete for all of like 10 minutes, and then Kasoy and Tommy Gann took me under their belt, and then it was just adventures with them for the whole weekend. So. It was a good time. And then, I mean, who better to take you under their wing than those two? I mean, pretty, veteran guys. They were here each for like 6 years or something. Like they didn't leave for a while.
One's still here.
Yeah, right. So yeah, those two really took me under their wing on that, and that was good.
Okay. And your dad was a wrestler as well, even earning All-American honors at heavyweight. I'm sure there were some tussles between you two growing up. Have you notched that first career victory yet?
No, I just because I don't go home much, but it's I still want it. And he's always said, sophomore year of college, I won't want to mess with you anymore. But every time I go home, he still is talking smack. But I remember one time in like maybe like 9th or 10th grade, I had won some maybe like middle school championship or whatever, and I thought, maybe this is my time to shine here. And I said, okay. So we went to the room, and I remember I left with like a bloody lip, bloody nose, and definitely a beat down morale. So
did mom have to stop some of these matches?
Yeah, definitely. Cause more so at the house, cause I'd be a little pissy when I got home, taking an L like that. I mean, he was my coach too. So it's like, he's roughing you up in practice, and it's a hard practice, and you get home, and it's like, oh, great. Like, now I got to live with this guy. So, yeah.
And we talk about recruiting a lot on this podcast. This year alone, 17 new members of the Wolfpack, and you got to meet a lot of them on their recruiting trip. But going back to your freshman season, what were some of the tough adjustments to both college and Raleigh for yourself?
Fortunately, I went to a prep school. I went to Wyoming Seminary for 2 years. So you're kind of on your own there. I mean, you always have a teacher breathing down your neck, but, away from the family, away from the siblings. So there was that. But it was just like probably the volume. Like, I mean, we worked out a ton. I mean, like when I got here as a freshman, I didn't realize what the jump was going to be from not necessarily a competition standpoint, but it's like basically, hey, every day when we go in the room, we're scrapping. It's gonna be tough. And then basically shower, go to class. You're still gonna be sweating, and then come back in the afternoon. And we're gonna lift or something. I just wasn't used to that, so it was definitely the volume. Academics, not too much of a I guess struggle transitioning. But I would definitely say that if you're the best in your room in high school, you will most likely not be the best in the room when you get to college. That's just how it is. Yeah.
And you were thrown into the mix right away as a freshman. You suffered a little bit of an ankle injury early that year, but you were the starter at 184. Any memories stand out from that very first season of yours?
Very first season, definitely. UNC duel. I think we needed a pin to win, or I was one of the later matches. We needed 6, and I went out there and I got it. That one will definitely stick with me forever. Couple losses that'll stick with me forever. You come in as a freshman and you get a redshirt senior who's ranked like second in the country, and you're like, oh, This is a long way from the state tournament that I was wrestling in like 8 months ago, but let's give this a shot, I guess. So, yeah, there's definitely some growing pains that freshman year.
And sophomore year, you went down a weight, but you were the starter at 174. Then junior year, you came back up, 184, 197. Jumping up in weight, Southern cooking. How did you put on some weight?
I got a little bit of 197 in there. I liked it, honestly, because I guess in the summer I would hover around 200. So that sophomore year was definitely tough. I mean, that was tough. I mean, that was brutal. But I think, I mean, I learned some lessons that'll definitely stay with me forever. Discipline being one of them. Obviously, now being in the Marine Corps, it's, you know, a staple in the how we live. But yeah, I liked 184, but I loved 197. I mean, I won a couple tournaments, made it to the finals of the NCO. It was nice. I mean, I would weigh in a couple pounds under. What, you know, it is what it is. I was a little, you know, undersized. I mean, obviously, but I liked it. It was good. I think like a big thing I would say is like just take opportunities. I mean, like I was offered the opportunity to go down to 174. Like, okay, and then I was, obviously, I've done 184 my freshman year, and then again, my junior year, then when, you know, coach is, hey, like, let's try this 197 thing. Like, hey, don't knock until you try it, I guess. So, I mean, I was kind of all over the map. I'm just glad they didn't ask me to go heavyweight. But
well, I was going to say, when these guys, like yourself, you weigh a little bit more, do you eat in front of other guys? Do you rub it in a little bit?
Oh, no. So that's the heavyweight. We leave the heavyweights to do that. Because I've cut weight since I was way too young. I don't even want to say how young, but so I know the pain. But yeah, so I mean, even now, like I'm graduated, and my roommates, if they were cutting weight over the summer, and my heart was breaking for them. Like for the what was that freestyle tournament they just went to?
U.S. Open.
Yeah. So like the U.S. Open and
U23s.
Yep, yeah, the U23. That's what I was thinking of. So they were cutting weight for that, and I was like, oh, dude. I mean, I wasn't there too long ago. Like, I still know what that feels like. So I won't rub it in their face, but definitely that was definitely the Kasoy move right there, and I still hold a grudge.
Now, this past season, you kind of got to work behind the scenes a lot more with the wrestling program. Saw what a lot of different people were doing. How would you say the people involved in the program are in building this program, since you kind of got a little different perspective from wrestler to a little behind the scenes?
Oh, yeah. So that perspective change was actually pretty crazy to me, because I didn't realize how sort of round the clock the coaching staff works. I mean, ask Pat how late he stays up watching recruits wrestle. I mean, I'll be in the office in the morning, and he'll come in and he'll say, yeah, I was up till 11 o'clock last night texting recruits and watching wrestling. Like, I mean, they just live it 24/7. And in my head, I thought, you know, their job started and ended with practice, but it doesn't. There's recruiting, and then there's looking for new recruits and following up with ones they're already talking to, and then making sure everything works out financially. And then it's keeping sure everyone's staying out of trouble, which our team, that's a pretty easy job to do. But then, you know, making sure everyone's good with their classes and double checking all the academic advisors. So it's full time. And then you put the season into the mix, where there's the travel and the planning and the hotels. And, you know, I would get like, hey, find out where the guys can work out in X city. Make sure they have this, and this, you know, and if not, you know, what are we going to do? So you don't realize as an athlete, because you just show up and, oh, here's a gym and it has everything we need. And, oh, here's a wrestling mat. Like, we could drill on it today because we have competition tomorrow. So it was really cool getting an inside look of like everything that goes in sort of behind the scenes to make sure that the athletes are taken care of. And I really got to tip my hat to the team here, because, I mean, all the coaches, I mean, Donnie, Obi, Melissa, Pat, Adam, like they crush it. I mean, they're working around the clock, and it shows off. So
you made the SID work a little around the clock too, with some of your texts to me about getting you information, but anything to help you out.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But sliding over to the academic side,
Yep.
You were on the academic honor roll multiple times, and you also got all ACC academic team as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
What was your major here, and what were some of the tougher aspects of it?
So I was an English major with a concentration in language, writing, and rhetoric. So,
but English is your first language?
Yeah, English is definitely my first language. So I know that's the funny thing.
I'm joking.
Yeah, so it's like you're gonna get a major in like what we already speak. I mean, yeah, that's the running joke. There's a lot behind it, believe it or not. Like you do a lot of things with structuring your sentences like in your head that you don't even think about because you've done it your whole life. So yeah, English. I sort of decided to do that around sophomore year just because I loved it in high school. I took a couple intro classes in college, loved it, and the rest is rock and roll history, I guess. I mean, so yeah.
And you're still on campus right now. You're going to be leaving in a couple months, but what are you doing right now on campus? So
right now, I'm not on campus. I'm right next to campus. I'm running Cameron Village. So I mean, technically. So I'm an active duty Marine. I'm working as a recruiter. I'm a recruiter's assistant. We work in the officer selection team. So basically, we're looking for Division I athletes. Would be great, but just qualified, college graduated students looking to make a difference, I guess.
Is this something? Do you go out actively looking, or do you expect people to come by and get information about it?
So we get a little bit of both, and it's not necessarily the traditional recruiting office you would think of, because we're not just hey kid, you want to join the Marines? It's we're an officer selecting team, so we're looking for people who've graduated college with a high GPA. We're looking for people who are not only physically qualified but excel physically, and not only pass all the tests but like really blow them out of the water, because there's a lot of, I guess, competition to be selected to be a Marine Corps officer. So yeah, we do go to college campuses. Obviously we love doing things that have any sort of involvement with athletics. NC State having a great athletic department and us being right up the road. I mean, it's perfect. But yeah, so that's kind of what we do. We also have a bunch of people that will stop in and say, hey, I'm interested in becoming a Marine officer, and we sort of try our best to work with them. And if they're good to go, then we'll sort of put together a package for them and send them off to Quantico.
And you talked a lot about, but we're really going to dive in onto this next phase of your life. Before your senior season, I asked you to write a piece for our website. It's a continuing series we've penned by various student athletes from many sports called Personal Statement. And for our fans listening, I encourage you to go to gopack.com and scroll down until you see the section of stories written by some of our student athletes to get a better feel of them off the court, off the field, off the mat. But Nicky, back to yours. Your piece was about your decision to join the Marine Corps after you finished up here at NC State. I thought it was a great piece, and you really shared with us all about the decision and what went into it. But you started mentioning that you always had that bug to join the military. Do you remember when you first started thinking seriously about it and how it started to envision in your future?
I do, actually. I mean, I remember wanting to join the military since I was like maybe 12 years old. I mean, of course you watch the movies. I feel like a lot of little kids, 12 years old, a lot of 12-year-old kids want to join the military because, I mean, those movies are cool. Lone Survivor is a cool movie, But I mean, it sort of just fit into how I was raised. Like I said, my dad was my coach. So, I mean, every night before I went to bed, I had to do 200 push-ups. And if I wanted to have a sleepover with my friend, I had to, run to the gas station and back. Or if I wanted to ride to the football game on a Friday night, it was, okay, fine, I'll give you the ride, but do 10 minutes of jump rope, and every time you miss, we're adding another minute. So, things like that. So, I don't know. It kind of just fit. I always liked this. It seems cool. That's the only way to put it when you're a little kid. I mean, when you're a little kid, it seems cool. And then I was basically raised in a little boot camp from my dad. And then, yeah, but then I guess when I got later into high school and I was like, oh, well, I really want to, wrestling's sort of my main thing. I mean, I wasn't even really thinking about a job. I thought about being a police officer for a little bit, and I gave that a thought, but it always just came back to, hey, I'm wrestling right now. Like, let's just focus on that. And then sophomore year, it kind of all clicked. Or, yeah, I would probably say late sophomore year, it all clicked, where I was like, hey, like, wrestling isn't going to last forever. Like, what am I going to do? And then I sort of went back to things that I like. Like, I love living a a life that requires physical fitness. It requires discipline. It requires, moral and physical courage. All things that Pat really, expects of his wrestlers. And it just all came back to me. I was like, yeah, I mean, I wanted to do this like a while ago, and it's been wrestling. But what about after? I mean, I feel like this will be I feel like if I go into the military after college, I'll have the best preparation, having been not only a college athlete, but, a wrestler at NC State. I mean, that's probably like the best, sort of prep you could get into it. So I guess that's how it led into it.
So you made that decision. Talk us through. So how did you go and join? What was the next step for yourself?
Okay. So I sort of made up my mind, like I'm definitely going to do it. And I was talking to a bunch of different recruiters, and I actually talked to a couple Army recruiters, and I mean, it was fine. They didn't seem like too psyched to have me in their office. It seemed like they were just, sort of, filling their tour as a recruiter. And I was actually a little bit discouraged, and I don't know, but the stars, I guess, aligned or something. But like the next day, I got an email from the captain up the road, and it was just, he sent it to, the whole school, I think. And I got it, and I was like, wow, like, this is insane. Like, I wanted to be an officer in the military. Like, it just all worked out. And he said, hey, we do this thing where in the Marine Corps, you could go to officer candidate school while you're still in school. You just go in between your junior and senior year. You go to Quantico. Won't affect your school at all. And then once you graduate, you'll be a lieutenant. And I couldn't believe it. I sent it to my girlfriend's dad, who was in the Navy for 20 years, and he said, yeah, I mean, that's legit. I give him a call. So we set up a meeting. Or an interview. You apply and you set up an interview, and I went in there, and he loves wrestlers like a lot of Marines do. And it was pretty funny because I went in there and I had a black eye and stitches in my head. Or maybe not stitches. Maybe it was like glued together. Good morning, sir. And I was like hoping he doesn't say anything. But I mean, let's address the elephant in the room. I was, So, but it went well. And I applied. You have to take the physical fitness test and get all these references and whatnot. And I eventually got selected. And I had to have a conversation with Pat saying, hey, not going to be here basically all summer to train.
Well, I was just going to say, obviously, this was a huge decision for yourself, your family, but the decision also affected the wrestling team in regards to your time commitment. How did their support help in your decision?
So the support from the guys was great, and honestly, the support from Pat was great too. Like I thought he was going to be like, no way, and team comes first, and obviously the team does come first, but he cares about us winning on the mat. I mean, any coach does. And that's what he's passionate about, and it's what keeps him up at night. But he also does care about the individual to the point where he said, hey, look, like, this is for your career. Like, send it. Just like, if you could do this, if you could take this opportunity, take it. And he knew I wasn't. You're not sitting on your butt all day. I mean,
you're training.
Yeah, I mean, we're up at 4 a.m. every day, running and push-ups and humping with a bunch of weight on our back and living out in the field. So pretty hard training. I mean, it definitely gave me I would actually say I came back a little mentally tougher. And not to say that you don't get mentally tough wrestling at NC State, because you definitely do. And I was prepared, but it definitely gave me a little bit of an edge in a different way coming back. So. But yeah, the support from the guys was great. I would get letters from them, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, my girlfriend, I guess, would like tell them like, I guess, what company platoon I was in, and every now and then I'd get a letter. I know I got one from Malikian and Tommy Cox, Mock. Of course, the letter I got from Mock. This will not surprise you at all. And if anybody listening knows Mock, this won't surprise you either. But like the letter I got from him had like spilt food on it. Yeah, right. Like, so you get it. It had like. And he circled, he's like, sorry, man, I dropped like some frijoles on your on your letter or something. It was hysterical. So the support from the guys was great.
Did anybody challenge you once you came back to do some kind of running or lifting or anything? Or
I remember I crushed preseason. Okay. No one necessarily challenged me. Tommy Cox definitely was again, if anyone listening knows Tommy Cox, they could totally see this. Of course, every time he sees me, he's like, "Hoorah, Marine Corps," or something. I'm like, "Oh, Tommy," or he'll call me like, he'll say like, "What's up, Sarge?" or something. I'm like, "Oh man, you have no clue." Like, so, but that's I would say him. But yeah, I think people were maybe expecting me to be in worse shape, I guess, when I got back, but I was a little bit better.
So that was the summer between your junior and senior seasons.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're up in Quantico. You said up at 4, in bed at 10. What were the days like?
Oh, man. So up at 4, shaving, getting your gear ready. Then you're out PTing for an hour, maybe a little more. It could be any sort of thing. I mean, it could have been anything from like a 5-mile run to circuit training stuff. It could just be like a run with, your full kit and rifle and camis and, and it's Quantico in the summer. I mean, it's like the most humid place on earth, I think. A lot of stuff like that. And, basically doing that and getting screamed at the entire time. Come back, 50 dudes shower in about 30 seconds. No, but in all seriousness, 50 dudes probably shower in like 5 minutes. It's insane. And then, you eat, you go to class, you receive instruction on whatever it is, tactics, how to navigate with just a compass and a map. I don't even know. There's so much stuff and very little sleep. So you lose a lot of, and then you eat again, and then you go to class again, and then, I don't know, just getting gear ready, and then you go to bed. I mean, that's some weeks, and some weeks you leave Monday and you come back Thursday, and you're in the woods the whole time. Here's 6 MREs, and you're going to be gone for 3 days, and that's it. I know what they would do, they would give like one person in a platoon like a Garmin type thing to see how far we would walk, and we would average like 11 or 12 miles a day just from like walking back and forth.
And that was in full gear most of the time?
Most of the time, yeah. So, I don't even know how I forgot to mention this. You do a lot of drill. So I don't know if you know what drill is. It's where you're just marching, left, right, left, and on a parade deck for hours in the sun, and it sucks. But that's that. But I really liked when we would go to the field. Those were the good days.
Once you're back on campus, your senior season, how were you involved with the Marines this past school year?
So it's pretty weird, like the program that they run. So you go to OCS all summer, and I mean, you couldn't be any more, in Marine Corps mode than when you're at either boot camp or OCS. I mean, you've seen the movies of boot camp. I mean, that's more or less what it's actually like. So you go there, and I remember for final inspection, actually, the battalion commander said, "Are you commissioning this weekend, or are you going back to school? Because if you had already graduated, you just go right into commissioning." And I said, "I'm going back to school." And he said, "This is going to be the hardest year of school for you that you've ever had." And in my head, I'm thinking, no shot. I got like 12 credits left. This year's going to be awesome. But I was, yes, sir. But he was right. So I came back, and it's like, you're in straight up Marine Corps mode. But now, I mean, I'm an English major, so I'm in school with a bunch of English majors, and I have like a buzzed head, and I stick out like a sore thumb. So your involvement's like pretty, I wouldn't say non-existent. I mean, we had things we had to go through like once a month. I mean, sort of my role this past year, this was to sort of like prepare people to go to OCS, like new applicants. But that's, I guess, sort of like the beauty and the curse, I guess, of how they run the program. And it's really good that you could do it while you're still in school. But you come back to school and you're like, oh man, I just want to be a Marine officer so bad. But you're not until you graduate. It's a part of the contract. So I just sort of did everything I could, and you focus on school and you focus on graduating, because that's what your job is at that point. Your job is to get your degree so you could commission as lieutenant. So
I was going to say, and you just mentioned it, all military officers must have a college degree before they are commissioned as an officer.
Right.
So you wrapped up your undergrad. What is the next step for you?
So the next step for me is I go to TBS. That's also back in Quantico. It's 6 months long. And I guess, I don't leave for another month and a half. So I'll be, doing this recruiting thing for another month and a half. And then that's where you spend a lot of time in the field. You spend like almost 70 days, under the stars, which is good. And then some leaving in September, graduating in, I guess, April. So it's gonna be some cold nights. So it's a lot of that. It's where every Marine officer becomes a rifle platoon commander. So the saying is every Marine's a rifleman. Therefore, every Marine officer is a provisional rifle platoon commander. So no matter what your job in the Marine Corps is going to be it infantry or tanks or, supply or adjutant or, sort of like a rear echelon job, every Marine officer knows how to handle a rifle platoon. And so that 6 months training is that. And you also learn sort of the basics of officership. I guess on the technical side, writing reports on your Marines and taking care of their families and all the things an officer is responsible for outside of, putting booze to asses, for lack of a better term. And at the end of that 6 months, you find out what your MOS is going to be. Your MOS being your stands for military occupation specialty. So your job.
Do you get to pick that? Do you
get
to pick a
kind of.
How does
so you'll rank like your top. I think you rank like your top 20. Mm-hmm. But if you get outside of your top 3, you done messed up probably. So yeah, you rank, and then based on how you finish in the class, the staff will put you in that job, and then you go to more training for that. So yeah. So
that's still to come, but maybe 10 years from now, what are your goals professionally? Where do you hope that your path is going?
I still see myself in the Marine Corps. And if there's a very senior Marine out there listening, they might chuckle at that because I'm a very young lieutenant. So I don't know. A lot of stuff could happen between now and then. But I hope I'm still in the Marine Corps, and I see myself still being in the Marine Corps. Hopefully I have a family, a couple houses. I want to get into real estate a little bit. But right now that's really my sole focus, and it's kind of all I think about.
And you talked about the coaches and wrestlers, but how supportive has your family, your friends, your girlfriend, they've all been during this process?
Oh, they've been great. I think my dad's a little upset because now I think my little brothers want to join the military a little bit because they kind of want to do everything I do. He was a little shocked at first, and then I was like, hey, dude, you're the one that, living at your house was a boot camp, man. Why are you surprised? But he's cool with it now. My little brothers are all about it, and my girlfriend's family is great. So they're a military family. Her dad was a senior chief in the Navy, so he was in for 20 years. He was actually my first salute at the at my commissioning ceremony. So it's sort of traditional where someone who's enlisted in the military, they always salute officers. So at the ceremony, they do you have like a ceremonial first salute, and I picked him to do it. So it was a pretty cool moment. But yeah, support's great. Nicole's all about it. And her family, they supported me every step of the way, so they made it easy.
And forgive me, I might forget what duel it was, but you were recognized before one of our duels. What exactly was that?
Well, it was actually a couple times. So before I even went to OCS, I swore in on the side of the wrestling mat, like right before the duel started. And that's like the best way to swear in. In front of the home crowd, and then your whole team about to go out there and do their thing. So that was awesome. And then the one they also had me come out in the center of the mat for Military Appreciation Day. I guess sort of just to be out there, show the face a little bit. But swearing in on the mat was definitely I'll never forget that. That was great. Yeah.
Now, everybody that listens to this podcast knows I'm a huge WWE fan. I've been trying for years to be a PR guy. I've hounded Nick Wisdowski for years to get to the WWE and take me with them, but he's all about the Olympics. You very often said you look like John Cena.
I don't say it. Other people say it. I get it every day. Yeah, it's crazy. Go, please finish the question.
No, that was a pretty good answer because that was great. WWE aspirations down the road. John Cena's little brother.
So here's my thing. So I've given this serious thought because I want the listeners to know that I can't go anywhere without being told to look like John Cena. Like literally anywhere. I can't go to the supermarket without either just a stranger or the cashier telling me. My buddy came out of the sort of storage room at the gym where all the athletes will put their bags and stuff. It's like, hey, there's like 6 girls in there talking about how you look like John Cena. I mean, I can't escape it. It's every single day.
Is that why you were trying to go up to 197 so you could bulk up and you could pass for
that's
more?
the worst when they're like, you look like John Cena. I'm like, oh, I get that all the time. And they're like, but smaller. I'm like, oh, really? Like, you gotta hit me with the 1-2 punch, not just the one. So, WWE aspirations. My plan is when Cena is too old to do, like just the singles, like he's out there 1-on-1 or whatever, and he needs like a break. They'll have like this huge PR story, like John Cena didn't know he had a son, like his son knew about his dad, and he decided to wrestle because he wanted to be like his dad, John Cena. And then like now, like they're reunited 25 years later, and they're tag team partners. And I think I could pull it. I mean, I have the athleticism. I don't have the size, but I'm also his son, so I'm supposed to be smaller.
You realize, friend of the program, Jerry Brisco, listens all the time. He's a talent scout for WWE. Maybe we'll see if we can make that happen.
Jerry, I've tweeted John Cena a couple times. I've gotten no responses. So if you could talk to John Cena about that and maybe just show him a headshot or
I was going to say, maybe tweet a headshot of yourself every day to John Cena.
I know. And here's the thing. He plays a Marine like in 5 different movies. And I'm just like, oh, this is getting worse.
This movie's being made.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hey, if we can make it happen, let's make it happen.
Nicky, I wanted to thank you for stopping by to share your story. We've talked about some of our recent grads continuing in wrestling at the Wolfpack RTC and other guys getting involved in coaching, but I thought your story needed to be shared. This sounds like a great opportunity for you, so I know I speak for all of our Wolfpack wrestling fans and wishing you good luck here.
No, thank you very much. It's been my honor to be here. So,
and I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast covering all things NC State wrestling. Until next time, Wolfpack wrestling fans, go Pack!
Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to MattTalkOnline.com.